Welcome to another edition of Cownaugh and Nariele's Puzzles and Survival Tips. This week, we're going to cover gear, chip, module, and cube modifications to your commander. First, before we get into this, I want to thank everybody for the feedback they sent us on the first video we did. Really appreciate all that and your ideas for future ones and that sort of thing. If you want to send us an email with your ideas, suggestions, feedback, you can send it to saviorsofstate@gmail.com. So when I was leveling up my sanctuary and my commander, my focus at first was to get up to a level 30 sanctuary so I could have my T10s. But after I completed the 30 headquarters, my focus changed to the gears, the chips, the modules, and the cube, so that my troops could be much more effective. I've been noticing in the last little while in some of the events that we go up against some other states and other alliances that they have some of them have these sanctuaries that are no higher than me. They're 30s or 31s, but their troops are so much stronger than mine because they have focused so much of their energy on modifying their commanders in order to enhance their troops. And so that is what I have been doing since level 30 hit. And one of the first things that I had to decide was what sort of focus I was going to put on my specialization. Now we know that there are 4 kinds of troops in the game: fighters, shooters, riders, and vehicles. And there's a magical little daisy chain there that describes that each troop has a one that it's stronger and also weaker against. So let's start with what you decided to specialize in and why.
All right, so what I did was I focused on my gear. I also for them as well. I specialized on those after I had the same approach as you. When I got to 30, I really focused on getting those gear, chip, module, cubes up to increase the power of those troops. The reason why I chose the fighters was because it was something that would be quicker to obtain, and it's also one of the first troops attacked when you are doing a scenario of your ultimate challenge or anything like that. It's going to be your first troop. Whether you attack a sanctuary or whatever, it is your first line of defense. That's the why I chose fighters. If fighters were not killed, then they can't necessarily defeat the other troops in that army. So that's what I focused on.
Okay. Now, when we're talking about gear versus chip versus module versus cube, I have noticed that the gear, when you modify a piece of your gear, it tends to have a bigger impact on the increase in your overall might than modifying a chip, module, or a cube. What would you put that down to?
I agree that the gear is one of the higher ones that increases your amount of attack or defense and HP, but also cube does the same thing. It's one of the harder materials to get. Gear, you can only get that through attacking layers or attacking the zombies on the map. You can usually get the upgrades through that. In cube, you can get those through your dailies, getting your chests, and you can also get that in the arena as well. Some mats for those.
Now, just before I leave off the gear page here, I've always been looking at the profile page of my commander, and there are 2 columns, one on the left, one on the right. First one has the jacket, the gun, armor, or whatever. The other one has the helmet, the boots, and the ring, or whatever that is. And then below the jacket and below the boots, there seems to be 2 empty slots that I have no idea what they're for. The one on the left actually has a little lock symbol on it, but the one on the right is open. What right. Do you know what those are all about?
So the one on the right is a super weapon that you would get for your state. So whether it's the lightning chain one or anything like that, that's where that would go in that spot.
Okay.
Um, the one in the other spot, I am not sure what it would be yet because I don't think that has actually come out yet. I think it's an addition.
Okay. Now I know
But I
that
could be wrong.
now I know that one of the biggest changes for my character since the last time we did a video. On the last video, we talked about the arena. And actually, I learned a great deal from that video and from you on that one. And it changed my approach to the arena. And I started performing much, much better. And I started getting into that, I can't remember what it's called at the moment, the bigger arena there that you have to qualify to get into, the Hero Dual Glory, that one. And in there,
Right.
you could start buying the fourth chip that is for your commander, the troop chips. And that, as far as I know, that's the only spot that you can get it. You might be able to buy them at some point or something. But so we have a chip that specializes in fighter, in shooter, in rider, and now we have the troop chip. And each section of the gear has a slot for all four of these. So obviously, since you were specializing in fighter, just like me, you are putting the vast majority of your energies into the fighter chips, I would imagine.
I'm actually, yes, a majority of my stuff is in fighters, but I'm also trying to increase my troop chip, which again it is available in the mall, but it is also pretty much only available in that arena. But I'm also trying to level up, not as fast, but fairly even, my other two classes, rider and shooter, fairly even, so that I can potentially create another talent to have them go up against somebody that might be um, weaker against one of those. So I'm working on those. But yes, right now, mainly fighters is what I'm working on.
So out of the four kinds of material, the gears, the chips, the modules, and the cubes, where are you putting the majority of your energy in as far as modifying them?
Putting majority of it in the gear is where I'm looking, but I think right now actually my chip and module are higher because those are easier to obtain. But I'm really trying to focus on my gear. I also do a lot of my upgrading around events. So if I'm in the ACE event, what I will do is I will try to upgrade during that, might increase and obtaining of mats. So I try to do it there. And I also focus it on the ultimate challenge, or actually, yeah, the ultimate challenge where they have every day on a module event, try to boost a little bit here and there if I can, so that I continue to progress in that ultimate challenge, because it will help you obtain more mats. It'll help you obtain heroes. It'll help you obtain a lot when you start completing certain levels.
Okay. We got most of what you said there. So,
Uh-oh.
so when it comes to the actual components that are used to enhance the various things, let's talk chips just for the sake of our discussion here. You have the chip promoter, and it comes in various pedigree. There's the the chip enhanced material, which has 1, 2, 3, or 4 stars, or maybe even a 5-star. I'm not 100%. And then you have the chip promoters. What's the difference between the two?
So the difference between like the chip promoters and the
chip enhancers.
Chip enhancers is you'll need them both when you get past certain star levels. So right now, if you have a 5-star, you need a certain amount of enhancement and you need a certain amount of promote ones. But when you get up further, you'll actually need a larger amount of each one. So it's basically a pick and choose what you can. Do you want to go a big promote on a chip, or do you want to just try to increase everything fairly evenly? The max obviously would be to go towards your bigger chip, meaning increasing it to its largest size, which I think is a double star, is 7 right now. Um, and what you do is you just have to spend a lot of those mats. So you will need them both, but usually you need more enhance than you do promote overall.
Okay. So promote is the harder of the two to get.
Right, and it's more expensive. So if, let's say, for example, you go into your um, Eva, or not your Eva, I'm sorry, your pit to exchange some of your stuff in there. Well, if you go in there, you will find that your module stuff that's in there will be um, 10,000 exchanges for one enhance and 50 or 60,000 for one promote. So it is more expensive, but you also need less of it.
Okay. Now, out of all of these things, obviously for me, yeah, the module is definitely the one that I find the least amount of pieces from. But the biggest change for me since our last video was that troop chip. I mean, getting into that arena and starting to build that up, because it affects not just any specific class, but it affects all of your classes.
Right.
So, okay, so we've kind of gone over the basics of this stuff. Is there anything else that you can think of that would help people with understanding or maximizing what they're going to get out of this?
So for the idea of enhancing these, um, it is very hard to obtain certain ones like cube and like gear. But what you got to find out is the fastest way to promote these. And if you go to, let's say, your Alliance shop and you buy a whole bunch of the 1-star gear enhancement um, items, you're going to be spending a lot on that. So what you want to focus on, what is your highest amount that you can obtain that won't basically break the bank? Not that you're spending real money, you can. It's all in the mall. You can buy that if you want. But if you want to get some decent percentage or return, you're going to look at doing your layers. If you need to run a level 30 plus layer, but nobody's on, do you wait and save it, or do you try to do your maximizing of your zombie hit that you can on the world map at level 40? Level 40 will not drop necessarily the enhancements materials, but they might do the promotes. They might, I mean, it'll do the enhancement and the promotes, but it may not do your actual material where you do your increase. So you need to look at that. And then you also, when it comes to your arenas, do you focus on buying or spending all the money for the troop chips, or do you focus on the enhancement parts? So you have to kind of pick and choose what you want to do. For me right now, when I go to the arena, I actually focus on all my troop chips so that I can get them to their max level, and then I'll focus on my enhancement part to go to the next star. So that's what I'm doing when it comes to that. So picking and choosing and figuring out, do you want to focus all your energy on your strongest material for gear or chip or module, or do you want to focus on certain ones like designated towards fighter or towards riders or shooters? So if you look at your gear when you get on to your command info, you will see all the equipment that's there. And for example, if you go to the chest or the helmet, you will realize that those two are designated for your fighter's attacks, but it also has subclasses of rider HP and defense, or the shooter HP and defense. So you can look at that and go, okay, which one do I want to do next? So for me, in my build right now, because I'm focusing on riders, I'm focusing on the helmet, the jacket, the gun, and the boots. So you have to pick and choose and figure out which one you actually want to do.
Okay. Well, you know, there are some events in the game where when they're done, you can have your choice of several different prizes. Like for example, while we're recording this, our alliance is in the middle of the Alliance Showdown event, and when that finishes, you're presented with a list of of the achieved lines for your alliance, and then 3 items that you are given as a choice of choosing as your reward. And in a lot of cases, like I'm looking here at the second level, you can either choose 30 marks of glory, 2 gear enhanced material boxes that are going to give you 100 of each one, or 20 gear refiners. So when you're presented with choices like that, when you're focusing on modifying all your material like this, my question would be, what are you choosing? Are you going marks of glory? Are you going the enhancement material, or are you going the gear refiners?
So for me, it sometimes depends on preference and what I'm trying to get done at that time. But if you want to look at the bigger picture, and this is what I do most of the time, is I choose the one that I know will give me the significant boost that I need. Now, if you only need a couple hundred more gear refiners to be able to promote up to the next level, that increase for the gear refiner is wherever you decide to put it, whether you put it in gear, chip, module, cube, um, or the other one. What you do is that boosts all the stats in those. So not just one certain item, but then if you choose the chip, you're only focusing on potentially only leveling up one single chip. So that right there would eliminate for me the chip. Don't even focus on that. So now you have glory or the gear refiner. So glory is the same thing. You promote that, but you're going to need a lot depending on how high you are in your levels. But in glory, you can focus on at least 3 buildings that have the troop attack boost and defense and HP, and focus on that and say, can I obtain the next level if I choose that one? So your option would probably be best suited would be your gear refinement, your glory, and then the chip. But that all depends on what you need in that moment.
Fair enough. Is there any other things you want to say about this subject before we call it a day?
I think one thing that should be mentioned is a lot of people get hung up on evening everything out, which is completely fine. The one thing that should be focused on is actually choosing a class that you want to just boost out of a phenomenal amount, because one, it will help you when you're on the attack. And I'm not saying just don't level anything else up, because that is very important, especially if you're going to be attacked during Valiant for resources, or in Reservoir War, or whatever else we do. You're going to need a strong defense, but a strong defense is also created by the number of troops you have. So if you're sitting there with 400,000 troops, and your strongest ones are sent out on an attack, and now you only have a certain amount left in the building, even being completely balanced, you're not going to withstand a designated strong troop march against you. So you need to focus on your specialty. In the end game, all things will be pretty much level. But right now, a focus would be, do I want to be a shooter class, a rider class, or even a fighter class? You can even be a vehicle class. Unfortunately, it's just not the best way to go. But you have to choose that option, and then significantly boost that chip, module, gear cube, glory, gear refiners, everything up so that you can become a force to reckon with.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time on this one. I think this was really valuable. And thank you to everybody who's watching it and checking it out. Remember, you can send your feedback to us at saviorsofstate@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your suggestions, your feedback, whatever you want to talk about. In the meantime, we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.